Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. As you can tell by the sound of my voice or by the face that you see on the screen that I am not David Pakman. David is away on a trip, vacation. I'm not quite sure. He just asked me to fill in for him while he was gone, and I'm more than happy to. I'm Benjamin Dixon, host of the Benjamin Dixon Show. You can find all of my content, all of my blogs and articles, all of my videos at thebenjamindixonshow.com. And you can also register for my newsletter, To the Point. To the Point is where I use 3 bullet points to not only summarize, but give you insight into the most pressing issues of the day. Now, let's get to the point on this next story. Steve Bannon was invited to an event and then subsequently disinvited because of the backlash. The NewYorker.com was, the magazine was planning an event coming up in the next few weeks in which Steve Bannon was supposed to be the headliner in the political section, in which he was supposed to have a confrontational interview with the editor of the magazine. That didn't bode well with other people who were invited to the conference. This is a quote from the New York Times. This is what they had to say, quote, "Within 30 minutes of one another, John Mulaney, Judd Apatow, Jack Antonoff, and Jim Carrey said on social media that they would be pulling out of scheduled events at the festival. Right around the same time when Mr. Remnick, who's the editor, announced the cancellation of Mr. Bannon's participation, Patton Oswalt did the same thing." Now, for the record, I'm quite sure I muddled their names. Some of them, I don't even know who they are, but apparently they're big stars. That's fine. But Patton Oswalt had to say this on Twitter. He said, "I'm out. Sorry, New Yorker. See if Milo Yiannopoulos is free." I think that was an excellent way to put it, because this is the same exact category that Steve Bannon is in. Steve Bannon helped launch Milo Yiannopoulos into the national conversation. And so that tweet makes absolute sense. Judd Apatow, whose name, again, I know I'm muddling, but it doesn't matter. Here's what they had to say. They said this on Twitter. "If Steve Bannon is at the New Yorker Festival, I am out. I will not take part in an event that normalizes hate. I hope the New Yorker will do the right thing and cancels the Steve Bannon event. Maybe they should read their own reporting about his ideology." And one more, Jim Carrey. Sure, I got that one right. This is what he had to say. He said, quote, "Bannon and me on the same program could never happen." And so after all of this, all the negative publicity, all of the speakers who were counseling, the New Yorker decided to rescind their invitation to Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, of course, did not take it lightly. This is what he had to say in a statement to the New York Times. He said the following, quote, "The reason for my acceptance was simple. I would be facing one of the most fearless journalists of his generation. In what I would call a defining moment, David Remnick showed he was gutless when confronted by the howling online mob." Steve Bannon. You know, there's a lot to say about this, because this treads on the conversation of deplatforming Nazis, deplatforming white supremacists and other groups, and it intersects in that disagreement that we have on the left about free speech absolutism. And of course, this is not a free speech confrontation or conflict. Rather, this is an organization saying, "Oh, we made a mistake on inviting a jerk to our platform, so we're not going to invite him anymore." But it will be cast by some as a free speech problem. But here's a question underneath. At what point have we had enough hearing the same hateful rhetoric? It's not as though challenging them is sufficient. They want these platforms. They have mastered the art of participating in debates with the most disingenuous motives possible. They don't operate in good faith. They will revise history. They will just outright lie, and they will do it all for applause points. And no matter how it plays out, no matter how they're confronted with the truth, they will simply deny the truth, and it will get published online as Steve Bannon owns liberal media. I mean, this is their formula. They have no intention in engaging in good faith discussions. This is a part of their strategy. They deny everything that they've said, even though they've said it. They revise history, even though most of us understand history pretty clearly. They will look us in the face and deny it. And they will stand on stage while they're getting booed about lying and continue to lie, because they know this: they don't have to win the debate with anyone else except their audience. And so long as their audience continues to support them, they will never engage in a good faith argument. It is all performative. So it makes absolutely no sense to engage in these debates with them by giving them a platform that amplifies them. If you want to go to their turf and you want to tackle them on their turf, on their platforms that they built, fine, so be it. But to amplify them and to normalize them in mainstream media outlets suggests that there's something of value that can come from this, and there never is. There's never anything of value that can come from people who will look you in the eye and say things like Adolf Hitler was actually a socialist liberal. I mean, this is the type of revisionist history that they are engaging in. Steve Bannon has demonstrated that he has no redeeming values about him that are worthy to be on the national stage. And yet we have media outlets who are fascinated. They're still fascinated with this Trump phenomenon, for one, but then for two, they are interested in how many tickets they can sell by bringing on someone as controversial as Steve Bannon. This time it backfired on them, and good on all of the other people, all the stars and people who rejected this and said, I'm not going to be a part of this, because it is its own form of exploitation. You're putting me on stage with someone who is a known bigot for what? The chance to show him up and to show that he's disingenuous, or to show that doesn't matter. I mean, the people whose minds have to be convinced that Donald Trump is a maniac who needs to be stopped, or the people whose minds need to be convinced of the fact that racism is running amok in this country, they're not going to change their minds. Their minds have been made up. Donald Trump said this during the campaign, and it bodes truthful today that he could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and people will still support him. You know why? Because they have reduced this down to nothing more than how they can own the libs. And they will revise history. They will lie directly to your face. They will be disingenuous in their debates, also so that they can own the libs. And so it makes absolutely no sense to amplify the message of someone like Steve Bannon on a mainstream platform like The New Yorker for the hopes of what? Because whatever you're hoping you're going to accomplish with them, you won't accomplish.